Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to session 15 of Principles of Management course. I am your instructor Dr. Shikha N. Khera from Delhi School of Management, Delhi Technological University. Students, we have been discussing about various aspects, functions and processes of management in the previous sessions. In the same link we discussed planning. Now we are starting off with the second managerial function, that is organizing. What happened when we were discussing planning? We actually thought of telling or discussing what is to be done. While now we have scheduled the activities, we know what are the tasks assigned for achievement of overall goal of the organization. We have to now move forward and set everything in order. Have a systematic arrangement of things in organization, because we know that there are multiple organizational units which are working in coordination with each other, and there are different resources in organization. The question now arises, in order to reach to the goal, that is what is to be done, how it is to be done is what we need to answer. How to assign the resources, how to align different units, how to have job specialization and various divisions and units in the organization, how to develop a sync between them. All these questions we shall be answering in the concept of organizing. Now, before I begin with the theoretical concept of organizing, I would like to highlight here what is the basic understanding of you people as organizing. Whenever you have to undertake any task or even smaller tasks at home also, you have a systematic order for things. You organize your almirah, you organize your calendar, you organize your time schedules, you organize your examination planning so that you are able to meet the timelines. So this is what even the organizations also do, because they too have time schedules, they too have various resources to arrange. Let us see what are the details or what are the various concepts within the broader concept of organizing that various authors and theorists have suggested for us to study and to understand it in a better manner. So, the introduction says organization basically is the managerial function which is concerned with bringing together the necessary physical and human resources to achieve the organizational goals and plans. This is what we started off with. Now, here the premise is that organization is a unified whole. Okay. So, organization is a unified whole wherein different units are there in the organization, which we can also call as various divisions. These units are always interacting and are interdependent on each other. So, what is required is that these unified wholes need to be in harmony with each other, and the job to bring to harmony is done by nothing but organizing function of management. Let us dig into certain definitions of organizing. It is the process of designing the jobs, grouping the jobs into units and establishing a pattern of authority between the jobs and units. Now, here students, we have to see the next definition says it is defined as arranging and structuring the work to accomplish the organizational goals. And the third definition says deployment of organizational resources to achieve the goal. So, the interpretation that we can have out of these definitions about the organizing activity is that organizing is a goal directed activity When we say goal directed activity, that means the common purpose of organizing is to accomplish the objective. Organizing is a differentiating activity. Why we call it as differentiating? Because it involves the identification and classification of various activities which are to be done in the organization with respect to different processes which are carried out within the organization. It is a grouping activity because it involves grouping of activities into manageable units. And what are the manageable units? They can be teams or they can be departments. Further, it is also assigning and delegating activity as the assignment of groups to different competent authority is done. It is an integrating activity. Why we call it as integrating activity? Because it involves coordination of efforts of various manageable units to achieve organizational purpose. It is dynamic and constantly evolving activity, which is very important because it changes whenever depending upon the significant change in the environment. So, changes take place as the organizational environment also changes in times. Next is importance of organizing. Now, why organizing function is important? Because we make the best use of available resources. For instance, organizing enables the manager to concentrate on their physical and human resources in a unified way and their plans become the reality. We shall now discuss how important the organizing function is to a manager. So, the first importance is it facilitates the goal accomplishment. So, the outcome of an organizing function is creation of a basic structure in the organization. So, here we are talking about creation of organization structure, which we shall be discussing in detail a little while after now. So, this structure acts as a tool for management to realize the organizational plans. Not only a tool, but it is also a guideline for the organizational members which regulates the deployment of resources. The second benefit to the organizational members is it clarifies the work environment. That is, organizing enables managers to determine clearly the tasks to be done and persons whom the tasks are to be entrusted with and how these tasks are to be done. So, that means organizing thus brings clarity to the individual, which is very important, having a clarity that how to go about further, not only to individuals but also to teams and departments about what are the tasks to be done. Also, it answers questions like what is the authority vested in which position and the responsibility with respect to the work environment. The third importance organizing gives to the manager is it enhances job specialization. As students, we have already discussed during the Principles of Management course or Principles of Management definitions by Henry Fayol that one of the principles is division of labor. This division of labor does what? It leads to having a job specialization. This job specialization may be based on the common functional area that the individuals perform. So, this is an ease by the organization to the manager that they divide jobs into different specialized sectors, and on the basis of that different divisions and units may be created tomorrow, and thus these smaller tasks are performed by these departments or individuals on a continuous basis. So, when these tasks are repeatedly performed, now this is the important aspect. When these tasks are performed repeatedly, the managers or the members, they become specialists in their area, and thus they can give high or good quality services or products because they are now specialists. The next benefit of organizing to the manager is improves coordination amongst different units. As we already discussed that one of the outcomes of organizing is to have harmony amongst the units. So, various activities of organizations are planned and carried out in different departments, and there are further divisions and maybe subdivisions of operations within these departments. So, depending on the nature of the task involved. So, what is then required? At this point in time, it is necessary to have effective coordination. Amongst whom? Effective coordination amongst the subdivisions, divisions, or maybe different departments altogether. So, these different departments because they have different goals, so requirement for this harmony is solicited. This is because the organization structure creates authority heads for each designated task. So, these heads normally coordinate all the activities related to different tasks. And who are these heads? They are nothing but the managers in the organization. Next in line is that when tomorrow you perform roles of a manager, if you do organizing well, it will allow you to have well defined reporting relationship. Now, what is reporting relationship? Reporting relationship is the relationship that people in hierarchy share with each other. Who is superior, who is subordinate, and who or which subordinate is supposed to report to which boss or which superior. Why is this relationship important? So that the individual member in the organization is very much clear about whom he has to give the task after completion, or whom he has to report towards evaluation or completion of the task, or maybe from whom he has to take the orders from. This will ease out the ambiguity or any kind of conflict in the role that the person is performing. So, thus the organizing allows the manager to develop reporting relationship amongst the organization members from bottom to the top of organization in a systematic manner. This well defined reporting relationship provides an orderly progression of information from bottom to top and also from top to bottom for decision making and for decision implementation in an uninterrupted way. Another important feature of organizing to the manager is facilitating staffing. The organizing function enables the management to determine the staff requirements by indicating the nature and number of people required at different levels of the organization. Here staff requirement means the number of individuals or whom we call as human resources required by the organization. So, it helps the organization in determining the knowledge, skill and the ability requirement, what we call as KSA, of an employee to fill the roles designated into the structure. Then comes, it avoids the duplication of efforts. So, as a part of organizing, managers identify all activities which are necessary to accomplish the goal. These activities are then meticulously classified and assigned to different departments and teams, and this process ensures that none of the task remains unassigned, which is very important. If we leave some task unassigned, probably our final outcome will not be as desired. Also, along with being unassigned, we have to see as a manager that it should not be wrongly assigned or maybe assigned twice or duplicacy in assigning. So, no redundancy, no overlapping, all these things are helped with the help of organizing function. Next is organizing boosts employee satisfaction and morale, which is probably one of the key factors in success of any organization. Here, organizations that have strong and consistent structure created through organizing normally makes the employees feel very much secure and motivated, and managers through this organizing function basically clearly defines the job. Now, what happens when the job is clearly defined? The person who is doing the job, he knows that what is the amount of authority I have and what is the task or responsibility I have to carry out, and thus I am able to fulfill the required path or move ahead with the goals of organization and personal goal as well. So, organization structure that provides a strong base for employees, it gives good amount of motivation to the employees. Now, students, we have discussed about the basic function, or you can say the basic details of organizing function, where we try to highlight what are the definitions, the concept of organizing, and how organizing function helps a manager to move ahead in a right path, or in the path where to find out the answer for how to complete the tasks. Now, the manager is moving on the path. He knows that organizing function has to be performed with the help of certain principles in mind, because if we do not have these principles, or what we call as guidelines or some rules and regulations, of course, we may get deviated from the path. So, the principles which help the manager to follow organizing, or what we call as principles of organizing, let's have some detailed information about it. So, the first principle of organizing is principle of chain of command. We have already discussed principle of chain of command as the principle given by Henry Fayol in the 14 principles of management. And if you can recall that, what was the chain of command? Chain of command was nothing but the hierarchical chain that exists in the organization from top to bottom in terms of reporting relationship, or giving orders, or responding back to the members. So, having a chain of command is must if we want to have organizing function in organization appropriately executed. The second principle of management, the second principle of organizing is principle of unity of command, which is also one of the principles from 14 principles of management, which says that we must already have the reporting relationship in a manner that each member of organization has one boss. So, this is called as unity of command. Why do we need to have one boss? So that the employee doesn't get puzzled that if I have multiple bosses to report to or take orders from, whom should I report or whom should I take orders from. The next principle is principle of unity of direction. Unity of direction means that common goal or vision or mission of all divisions and departments in the organization, they are moving in the direction which is common to all. Why so? So that the ultimate goal of the organization can be established or can be achieved if all members move in the same direction. And how do we ensure with the help of organizing that everyone is moving in the same direction? When we are able to disseminate the common goal to all members in a right manner. Then comes principle of span of management. Now, what is span of management or span of control? It means that number of employees under one manager. So, this span of management can be higher, can be broader, or can be narrower, that we shall be discussing in the concept of organizing in these sessions on organizing function. But broadly, if we talk about here, span of control refers to the feasible number of employees that a manager can handle, whether it is 5, 7 or 100 or 500, how many members or subordinates a manager can manage. The organizing function has to allocate that, which depends on number of factors. Then comes principle of specialization. Just now also we discussed that the organizing function helps the manager to have specialization in the department or in the organization. So, this principle of specialization helps in achieving precision in the work that a person is doing, because he is doing the work again and again, and thus he may become master of that activity, which may lead to high quality output. Then comes principle of coordination. Coordination here means bringing in synchronization between departments or units, and this coordination enables to have a conflict free environment and an environment which is in harmony with each other. Principle of flexibility, I believe this is the most important principle, because unless until we give a platform to share ideas and to have a platform where we can have multiple ideas, because if we want to reach to a concrete most effective idea, we need to have first generation of multiple ideas. So, this flexibility can help people manage their resources, have creativity, and can lead to high amount innovation in the organization. Principle of delegation is giving a part of your job to your subordinate. Now, why will any manager delegate the job to other managers? There can be many reasons because of which this delegation can be done. One of the reason can be that you want to groom your manager. So, as a result, you would like to give this to your manager in terms of the job of a part of your job to the manager, so that he also gets to know how to perform tomorrow after his career planning or succession planning. And if the manager is busy in doing some critical activity, of course, some kind of operative work that the manager was doing can be taken care by the subordinate. So, I believe students, you have understood the principles of management now, principles of organizing now, and these principles of organizing, if followed in proper spirit and effectively executed, they can help the manager to avoid many uncertain scenarios and situations where there can be lack of resources, there can be lack of skill, there can be lack of harmony amongst the organizational units, and ultimately it is going to harm the achievement of organizational effectiveness. Now, under this category, we have something called as two types of organizations, that is mechanistic organization and the organic organization. The mechanistic organization and organic organization are based on the principle of chain of command. The primary difference between the mechanistic organization is that it is based on rigid rules and regulations. The guidelines are given and deviations are not allowed. So, for the structures where the manager has to handle many or larger number of employees under him, the result is we can go for a mechanistic organization structure, where these bureaucratic rigid rules and regulations, when followed, makes the manager's job easy. The organic structure, on the other hand, is opposite to the mechanistic structure. In organic structure, flexibility is given and the manager oversees the work, the job is done by the employee. So, as a result, it gives or nourishes creativity and innovative environment. So, thus the chain of command follows these two organization structures. Like the mechanistic organization structure, which we call as bureaucratic, and here the span of control is small and it imposes the rules and regulations, and it is adhering to the principle of chain of command, which we have just discussed. On the other hand, organic structure is highly adaptive, and it is adaptive, thus it allows to change rapidly as required based on the external environment. Here the jobs are not standardized and few rules and regulations are there and little direct supervision. So, this gives the manager ample amount of creativity or platform for innovation. Principle of unity of command, I have already explained you students. So, quickly going through this, with the unity of command there is no confusion and no duplication of conflict in orders. In unity of direction, as we have just discussed, the unity of direction states that all activities of organization should be directed towards accomplishment of same objective, the vision and mission of organization. Then comes span of control. Span of control is the principle deals with number of employees or supervisor can effectively manage. Principle of specialization, which states that each employee should perform one leading function which will enable him to have high amount of specialization and effectiveness in performing that particular function. Principle of coordination deals with having a collaborative relationship to accomplish the organizational goals. This collaborative relationship is based on the coordinated activities of different units in the organization. Principle of delegation is the process of allocating authority and responsibility for goal achievement of organization. And principle of flexibility insists that some exceptions to rule must be permitted, and this is essential so that we can match up to the uncertain and unpredictable nature of organizational environment, and we are ready to face such challenges. Now, we have an example here where the manager or the organization is following the organizing principles. This organization is HUL, that is Hindustan Unilever Limited, one of India's largest fast moving consumer goods company. And the fundamental principle determining the organization structure of HUL is to empower the managers, see the students, giving flexibility across the country nationwide for nationwide operations and infuse speed and flexibility in its decision making and implementation process. Because the manager is getting empowered, so as a result he is able to have some flexibility, and this flexibility may lead on to have effective implementation tomorrow. This company also considers factors like transparency and accountability in decision making and execution as two basic tenets to corporate governance. So, another methods to have proper organizing in the organization is through transparency, having a clear cut rules and regulations and accountability, so that the employees are answerable to the bosses, thus making decision making a effective exercise. So, all the activities at HUL including the organizing function are driven by as aspiration to serve consumers in a unique and effective way. Here students, you can see that the practical example of one of the leading organizations in India, how the function of organizing is helping them to conduct smooth business activities and effective accomplishment of organizational goals. Principle of parity of authority and responsibility, I believe you have understood it by now, but quickly recapitulating it, it means the principle that authority delegated to employee should be equal to the responsibility entrusted in them. Here what we mean that if one task is assigned to a subordinate, then the task assigned has equal authority also. Task assignment is the responsibility and authority is authority in use of resources maybe, or authority in some kind of decision making that may be operative in nature primarily, or maybe also strategic if the environment or the time demands for the same. After principles of organizing, let us move on to the next content, that is the process of organizing. So, process of organizing means that how organizational manager step by step do the activity of organizing. As we all know that the primary purpose of organizing is to make possible an orderly use of organizational resources. So, the organizing process aims at converting the plans into reality through the planned and purposeful deployment of physical and human resources in the organization within the decision making framework, what we call as organization structure. So, the end result of organizing process is creation of an organization, and organizations which are created through efficient organizing process can have improved capabilities and also functional work environment, which is necessary for superior productivity and performance and employee satisfaction and motivation. So, let us see the basic steps in the process of organizing. I will quickly go through this graphic and then I will explain each step in detail. So, it starts on with recognizing the organization goals, plans and operations, deciding the goal related activities, grouping the work activities, assigning activities and authority to specific positions, coordinating the divergent activities, and finally evaluating the outcome of the organizational process. Let us discuss this process in detail. Recognizing organization goals, plans and operations. Now, here students, what we are doing, we need to find out that what are the goals and how we can have a workable plans to be formulated to achieve these goals. These plans guide the organizing process by influencing the decisions regarding activities to be carried out for goal accomplishment. So, it is therefore necessary for the manager to first examine and then recognize the nature and duration of organizational goals. Once the manager has done this exercise, then comes that we move on to deciding the goal related activities. Here what the manager has to do? Manager must determine the specific activities which are required to required for achievement of plans and goals of the organization. So, they can prepare a list of activities here or the tasks which are needed to be carried out for plan execution. So, generally at this stage manager will do what? It will break down a potentially complex job into simpler jobs. So, first what did we do? We tried to identify different activities. Now, identifying the goal related activities. The third step is grouping of these work activities. Since we have identified multiple activities, so there is a probability that multiple activities can be grouped into different clusters based on the activity which is carried out. So, once the managers know what specific tasks or activities are to be done, they classify and group these activities into workable units, and these workable units later on are called as divisions or departments in the organization. So, normally group these activities into logical pattern or a structure. And thus usually the managers, they adopt principle of functional similarity, that is similarity based on function of the task, or maybe the classification is based on various grouping activities, like for instance grouping of activities can be done on the basis of functions which we know, marketing, HR, production, etc. Can be based on geographical location. Grouping of activities can also be done on the basis of products, or can be on the base of customers. So, this is how after identifying the activities we have now grouped them into various units. Once we have grouped them based on what kind of activity it was, now we move on to the next step of assigning the activities and authority to specific positions. So, which job will carry out which work? This is this step. Once the activities necessary for goal accomplishment are identified, classified and grouped, managers allocate these work activities into specific individuals. So, they should also assign at this stage the required job resources. Since we are giving the individuals the activities to be done, so we have to give them the job resources which are required for successful completion of these jobs, and also appropriate amount of authority must be delegated to the manager at this time or to the subordinate at this time. And during the next phase of process of organizing, we have coordinating the divergent work activities. So, here the managers should coordinate the activities of different individuals, groups and departments within the organization. So, normally the managers are expected to decide between two factors. One is vertical and then horizontal relationships. So, we have vertical relationships and horizontal relationships within the organization structure. The vertical structure indicates decision making. So, this is decision making hierarchy, and here the establishment generally has from top to bottom. It provides the details of who should report to whom in organization within various teams and departments. So, we have this vertical hierarchy, while in horizontal hierarchy it indicates the working relationship that prevail between various departments. So, we have working relationships. It also indicates the span of control for the manager and the supervisor. How span of control? Because number of people working under an individual. So, the organization structure then become complete once the various activities of organization are coordinated and directed towards the goal. And generally this two vertical and horizontal relationships are depicted in the form of a diagram which we call as organization structure. And the final stage of organizing function is evaluating the outcome of organizing process. So, that means finding out, students, that how far were we able to identify the right kind of activities. Then after identifying the activities, were we able to find out the right kind of grouping of activities. After grouping of activities, whether they were assigned the right vertical, that is horizontal, or maybe the vertical alignment in relationships. Also, the review of implementation of these work specializations and other process steps to find out how well we were able to organize. We may have done wonderful planning, but if we are not able to do the right kind of organizing, that is job specialization or having right hierarchy or aligning with the goal, then probably we will miss out on something, and hence the organizational mission accomplishment may become faulty. So, the last step is evaluating the outcome. So, since the organization goals and plans are dynamic in nature, organization structure should be flexible. So, this is the takeaway here, that the organization structure and organization should be flexible enough to accommodate the changes in the environment in order to bring in change in goals and plans. So, hence we may say that it is essential for managers to periodically evaluate on a regular basis. So, this periodically can be either once in a year depending upon the turbulence in environment which the industry is surviving in, or maybe half yearly, or maybe it may be quarterly also, based on what is the environmental conditions in which the organization is surviving. So, the results of organizing process is to know how effective and organizing functions are in achieving the stated goal and mission of the organization. So, it should be clear by now students that organizing process helps the manager to establish working relationships. This is very important takeaway from this function of organizing. Then it also helps the manager to choose specific organization type for establishing this relationship amongst the various members in organization, and this choice making of establishing the relationship amongst organization members is called as organization design. So, two terms that we have to study in detail is one, organization design, and second, organization structure. So, let us study organization design. So, the first major task of manager engaged in organizing is to develop an organization design. What is organization design? It involves in creation of new organizational structure, or maybe do some kind of modification in the existing structure based on requirement from the outside environment. Also, designing organization is not a one time event for the organization. So, it actually is a formal and guided process of integrating the activities and resources of organization on a continuous basis. Organization design process helps the manager to solve two important but complementary problems of the organization. First is how to divide the big task, that is the organizational goal or goals of whole organization, into smaller tasks. This is the most challenging event for manager. And second is how to coordinate these smaller tasks efficiently. These two are the critical options that the manager, or the functions of management that manager has to perform, and organization design helps the manager in achieving these objectives. So, it involves multi-dimensional approach as it deals with human components and structural components both. Here the structural component is how to divide the big task, and second human component is how to coordinate amongst the members who are doing the smaller tasks in the organization. Also, the organization design includes, as the organization includes the human component, which normally involves people in the organization. Then we also have processes in the organization. We have to give the rewards to people, we have to coordinate them, and we also have to control their behavior appropriately so that they perform in the given path. So, the structural component of organization includes organizational objectives to be achieved, organizational goals, organizational plans, organizational strategies, and organization structure. So, thus we say that management normally adopts a top down approach to the organization design process by working from top to bottom. And while designing the organization structure, managers normally consider nature of goals, strategies, people, environment, technology, and activities of the organization, which is these parameters. The key elements that influence the decision making to organizational design include, can you guess students? So, it includes first job specialization. Unless we have done job specialization, it is very difficult to have a proper aligning of all organizational activities. Second is job grouping. Now, differentiating between the two, job specialization is based on a specific job to be done. Okay. So, right now I am teaching, so that is my specialization. Job grouping is number of jobs which are of similar nature are aligned together or done by the same unit. And third is the reporting relationship amongst various positions, and then distribution of authority. These are all tasks which are done in the organizational designing part, and they are very necessary to have a effective organizational design for the any establishment. So, having a quick look on various definitions of organization design, it is the process of assessing an organization's strategy and environment demands. Then organization design is process of by which managers select and manage aspects of structure and culture so that an organization can control the activities which are necessary. And finally, the third definition says it is the design of process and people systems to support organization structure. So, in all the definitions, students, I believe that you have seen that it focuses on that organization design is the process, and in this process what we are trying to bring in together is strategy, environmental demands, structure of organization, culture in which it prevails, and the systems to make it an effective organization structure. So, all these are parameters of right kind of organizational design. The second aspect after organizational design, as I discussed few minutes back, was organization structure. As organization design involves the designing of organization structure by managers for grouping the activities and then allocating to different departments, and as discussed earlier, once these activities are assigned, formal authority and responsibility is established among the departments and teams. To make organization structure more viable, authority is delegated throughout the organization and a mechanism is established for coordinating diverse organizational activities. So, thus organization structure is a very powerful instrument for reaching organizational goals and objectives, and in this regard manager must ensure a perfect fit between organizational plans and structure to achieve the organization plans we have already discussed, structure we shall be discussing in detail. Generally, the goal and size of organization determine the nature and type of organization structures. There are many types of organization structure which we shall be looking into in detail, that why an organization is taking X type of structure and why the other organization is taking up Y type of structure. So, that depends on nature also of the product, organization size and the market components. So, for instance, we may say that large organization may have extensive and complicated organization structure. So, this can be for large organization and this structure can be quite capable to meet the demands of a complicated organization, while these structures may include several hierarchical layers, one after the other. Different hierarchies are existing in the complex organization structure. But in contrast, the smaller organization may have contrastingly simple and straightforward structure. So, in any case, while designing or modifying a structure, manager must have thorough knowledge of the existing environment, technology, system and social relationship amongst the members. Let us have some discussion on organization structures definition. So, it is defined as framework that managers devise for dividing and coordinating the activities of members of the organization. Another definition mentions it again as framework in which the organization defines how tasks are divided, resources are deployed and departments are coordinated, while the third definition says that it is the sum of ways an organization divides its labor into distinct tasks and then coordinates with them. This organization structure is depicted with the help of organizational chart. I am sure you students, you must have seen this organization chart of many organizations and you can quickly relate to that what is what is the organization structure for that organization. So, organization chart is a tool used by management for depicting the organizational relationships. It is a visual representation of organization presented in a diagrammatic form, and this chart serves different purposes for the organization. For instance, it shows the major functions which are performed by the organizations. So, first thing that you can get to know from the chart is what are the major functions. That it also tells us about nature of relationship of between or various departments. It helps us to understand the channels of supervision and communication also. These are all characteristics of organizational chart. Line of authority can be known with the help of organization chart, and also something called as title of various job positions. This is also we can get to know through organizational charts. So, we shall now look into a few definitions of the term organizational chart. So, organizational chart is defined as the visual representation of the whole set of underlying activities and processes in an organization. This visual representation of organization structure is known as organization chart, and I am sure you must have seen organization's chart of organization in this manner. So, this is how various jobs and their reporting these are the reporting relationship, and this is the communication channels top down and bottom up, and these are various job positions in the organization. Organization chart can also depict the relationship of one department with the other, and also as a whole how the organization is performing. It enables the manager to spot and recognize various complexities, discrepancies and inconsistency in the organization structure, and these charts will be of little use if they are not updated periodically. So, they need to be updated periodically. So, here we have detail on the organization structure of an organization, that is Radiohems Agency Limited RAL, one of the India's largest FMCG marketing company, and it has following characteristics in its organization structure. So, the chief characteristic of RAL are as follows. It has a flat structure with fixed level of reporting and increased responsiveness, and this should also enable organization members to play enriching roles and diversify their skill set. Next, it says that it has dynamic and constantly evolving structure in tune with fast moving and changing business parameters. Its structure clearly defines the roles and relationship of organization member even while remaining flexible. So, you can see students, the organization structure can help the organization to have much more clarity in things, like here we know the reporting relationship, we know the roles, we also know these diversified skill set, we also know how we can survive in the dynamic environment, and also we know that whom we have to report, and thus we are clear about our jobs. Moving further, we have elements of organizational design and structure. So, there are 6 key elements of organizational design and structure. First is division of labor and job specialization. Students, division of labor and job specialization we have already done many a times. So, quickly recapitulating it for your benefit. Here we are dividing the job based on the special skill or specialist skill that the organization demands for carrying out the overall mission of organization. So, this division of labor or specialist skill helps the organizing function to be performed effectively. Second is the departmentalization. Departmentalization, which we shall be discussing in detail a little while from now in the next session probably. So, this departmentalization is based on can be based on two categories, right? Like it can be a functional department based on the functions which are carried out, like marketing, finance, HR, etc. It can be product departmentalization based on different departments that organization carries because of different products that the organization is giving to the society under different brand names. So, departmentalization can be done in both ways, functional as well as product departmentalization. Then we have chain of command. Chain of command basically means that the hierarchy, and this element of organization design helps the organization design and structure to showcase who is going to report to whom. Span of management, the number of people who work under an individual. Hierarchy of authority, that is centralization versus decentralization, which let us understand that to what extent decision making is vested with the central authority, with the board of governance or board of management, or to what extent it is decentralized to various managers down the line, so that they can take quick decisions as they know better what are the bottlenecks coming up while performing their jobs. So, the degree of centralization and decentralization also varies, and they are the effective tools for organizational design and structure. And lastly, the formalization, that is having a formal authority, responsibility and accountability relationship. So, all these we shall be discussing in detail, but before that, let us try to understand that what is the significance of organization design and structure in the organizing. The significance of organization design and structure in organizing is to enable the organization meet with or come up with effective tools so as to map the flow of authority. Also, it is essential to have authority lines of different managers within the organization. It can help identify or spot and recognize complexities and discrepancies, or maybe some kind of inconsistencies in the organization structure, if any. So, basically organization design and structure assist the manager in various ways in employee orientation programs also, and it can be used by managers to show where each job is located in organization structure and how the relationship with other job in the department is existing. So, these are the 6 elements for organizational design. So, while designing the organization structure, the manager takes care of these 6 organizational design key elements. We have tried to explain them in brief at this moment, and we shall be discussing them in detail in part 2 of this lecture. For this particular lecture, I have referred to this bibliography. Students, you can also refer to these books to enhance your know-how on the concept of organizing. And we have finished the initial discussion. As we have finished the initial discussion of the organizing, I would now conclude this session, and we shall be taking up the rest of the portion in forthcoming sessions of part 2 and 3 of organizing chapter. Thank you.